It's the rule of nerds.
And spoiler alert, this is our review of Avengers Infinity War.
Here we go.
All right, so before we start, we would like to repeat this is our full spoiler review. So we've waited so long to make sure that everybody has had enough time, and I think almost 2 weeks is good enough. If you don't want spoilers, obviously you probably would have watched it already. Yeah. So this is
if you haven't seen it by now, I don't think you're ever gonna see this movie.
I know,
You
right?
have no plans to do it. So
yeah, so we are assuming that everyone watching has seen the movie. If not, then I sure hope that you're ready to hear whatever it is. We will not hold back. So here we go.
Okay, so first question, everybody, the one on everybody's minds, that if you haven't seen it, the first question is always after, this movie has been billed as the culmination of 10 years of MCU movies. Does it live up to the hype?
I think, not to mention the box office, it already has reached $1 billion faster than any other movie. It's breaking records left and right. Is it worth the hype? Take all of that away. I really think it has more than lived up to what it promised. Yeah. And we'll tell you at least, our reasons why we think so as we go along.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because the answer to this question has probably evolved over the past few weeks.
I must say.
For both of us, we started talking about this immediately after watching the movie.
Right.
I've seen it multiple times. I don't know how many times you've seen it.
Yeah.
But that's an answer that has changed. I think for me right now, where I'm at, I think the answer is absolutely. What an amazing movie. It just it does everything it sets out to achieve.
I mean, what I love about this movie is that especially if you've read the comic book, you don't know in what shape or form it will appear. Just like Civil War was loosely based on the comic book, but it's so different.
Yeah.
Same thing with Infinity War. The source material is Infinity Gauntlet and all the other infinities.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we all know what's coming. I guess what made it so worth the hype is that we know characters will die. We know this is like an event thing where Thanos snaps his finger and half the population is dead. So we all know we're headed towards that.
Yeah.
What made it amazing for me is how the movie did it.
Yes.
We all knew.
Yes.
Like, okay, but how will it be? Will it be like in the comic book where he snapped his finger and people just disappeared? I guess what I wasn't prepared for was how the movie did it. Not so much that it actually did it, but how we all know that they're all probably coming back in one form or shape or another. But it was the punch in the gut that was this movie.
It's pretty surprising how hard it actually hits you, even if you know it's coming, right?
Yes.
I think everything about how they did that scene, the first few ones that disappeared into dust, they made sure to partner them up.
Yes.
So it's Bucky looking for Steve Rogers.
Yes.
And
Groot
one of them.
and,
So there's
Groot
always
and Rocket.
Yeah, there's always one to disappear and one to mourn them.
Yes.
So it really hits you emotionally and just visually.
Yes.
The way they did the visual, you turn into dust and you fly away into the wind.
Mm-hmm.
It's just absolutely amazing. I know a lot of people needed therapy after watching this movie.
And there's no music.
Yeah.
There's hardly any sound. It's as if everything was antiseptic. Like, it reminded me of the ending of Contact, the one with Jodie Foster, where she was in this weird world that you don't know if it was real or if she was hallucinating. It was that sort of antiseptic world that reminded me of that last scene. But we're getting ahead of itself. Was it just the ending? No. Because everything that it promised, it delivered. It had the big fight scenes.
It had all the characters.
All the characters.
Yeah.
It didn't have that iconic. Because a little digression here. I was actually able to go to Singapore for the Infinity War press junket, and we did get to talk to Joe Russo and Benedict Cumberbatch, Karen Gillan, producer Trin Tran. Only RDJ didn't have his one-on-one interviews, but they did say if you thought that the iconic airport scene was good, you can expect something even better in this movie. In my opinion, in terms of the actual battle scene, I think the airport scene is still number one in my book. But definitely, this movie, delivered something else. It wasn't so much that they gave you a fight scene that was well choreographed.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know what? If you're talking big, if you're talking epic, this one definitely delivered.
Yeah, probably it might, depending on your opinion, it might not be like the greatest moment in the MCU history.
Yes.
But it's definitely like the most emotional one.
Oh, yeah.
They deliver
Yeah.
it in spades.
Like
Okay.
we said, maybe it's not the battle scenes, maybe it's not, the grand epic scale. I was expecting it to be like, how do they top something like Civil War, where they got everything there? How can they? And it turns out it's not in the bigness of it.
Yeah.
It's actually in the simplicity of it. It was in the quiet moment that it delivered in spades.
Yeah. So I think one of the, if you swing the other direction, like the one criticism you can probably level at this is, was it an incomplete movie?
Okay,
Was
so-
it just a part one of two movies?
You know, when we first heard that it was going to be, Infinity War 1 and 2, and then the Russo brothers said, you know what? It turns out these are two completely different movies. I guess this is where there's this one part where we would have to disagree, because obviously this is not a standalone movie. I mean, you have to tell us what happens next, and everyone says Thanos will be back at the end of it. So we all know that you can't leave it at that. So obviously this is a part one, part two. Maybe they can give it another title. Maybe it won't be Infinity War Part 2. But definitely this is going to be a hand-in-hand movie. It's one, Infinity War, and two, whatever the second one is going to be called.
Yeah. It's definitely a cliffhanger. But the conversation we had earlier, it's such a great analogy to make. Like this isn't like a season finale that sets up a future season. It's more like that penultimate episode of any Game of Thrones season. The one where they're just allowed to go batshit crazy, do whatever they want to do, whether it's a huge ass battle scene or it's kill some characters that are beloved in the fan base. So it's I would say that it's a part one in the sense where in the future when you rewatch these movies, it's gonna be hard to watch just this and not the next one, because it's gonna leave you wanting more. But it's also not a part one in the sense that you wouldn't want to rewatch it on your own. I think they do so much in this movie that just the sheer spectacle of it is enough to be a standalone movie. Does it end kind of closed, open-ended? I mean, maybe, but you can look at it in terms of like a monster movie where some of your heroes survive and the monster is still there for a sequel. It's a little bit like that.
Yeah, but I mean, the main reason that I say that this is definitely a part one and part two is that there is no resolution. It gives you like, obviously it cannot end there.
Unless you were rooting for Thanos.
But otherwise, it's a great movie from beginning to end. Yes, there will be like little lulls in between, but really, are we going to nitpick? It's like saying, is this movie perfect? Definitely not. But to say that, oh, but it has flaws, it's like saying, oh, the pyramid has a few loose stones. I mean, like, you'd be nitpicking. The general idea here is that they promised an epic and they definitely delivered, and I really don't know where they will take it from here.
Okay, another question that was being asked of me before the movie came out was, what Avengers Infinity War, obviously from the trailer, is going to be the biggest movie yet. But is it going to be better than Black Panther? Really big shoes to fill. Everybody loved Black Panther. But not just because of how good the story was. There was a weight to it, a cultural relevance. I remember when we did our ranking of the best movies of last year, that was the reason that's what put Wonder Woman ahead of a lot of the other movies. We said we enjoyed Thor Ragnarok, we enjoyed Spider-Man Homecoming, but none of them could touch like how culturally relevant Wonder Woman was.
Right.
Did this movie have that?
Okay, so I think that's not really what this movie is for, in my opinion. That sort of like world building culture. These are like for the individual stories. These are for the smaller stories, and I think one of the biggest problems that any filmmaker would have for this kind of movie is how to give each character, each one worthy to have their own movies. Some have, some haven't, but all worthy of having their own story. How do you balance all of that in such a fully packed movie of a mere 2 hours and a half? And I think the movie did really great, and I think we can jump into this.
Yeah.
I love how, jumping from, Civil War, where, obviously it's Cap and Tony, they are the main, people there. I love how they actually took a step back, especially Captain America. You barely saw him. You saw him a couple of times, cheered that he was back.
Yeah, and considering that this was the creative team of the Captain America movies.
So it's incredible how Iron Man and Captain America actually took a step back.
Yeah.
And I love how, it was able to balance out, you had Guardians of the Galaxy coming in. You had, Thor and Hulk coming back from Ragnarok.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone having their little moment under the sun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure people would have loved to see more Black Panther. I'm pretty sure you would have wanted to see more Captain America. But I loved how everybody was given a little bit, a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
And I love how those who were actually given more were not the characters that you were expecting.
Yeah,
would
definitely.
be given more.
Definitely.
Which we'll get into later on.
That is interesting because I think if you're a fan who's jumping into this franchise in this movie, you definitely would think that some of these characters are minor characters.
Yes.
Maybe a lot of them are underserved.
Yeah.
But that's the luxury that this movie has, having 10 years of movies behind it. Marvel, they let the past movies do a lot of the legwork for them.
Right.
They trust that most of their audience have already seen the movies and that they don't need to waste time, building up some of these stories because you should know this by now.
Exactly. That's what the other 10 years were for.
Yeah.
You were supposedly getting briefed on each character, what they could do, what they can bring to the table.
Yeah.
And now is the culmination. There is no time for you to say, okay, teacher, who's that? Well, who's that one? You're supposed to know. You're supposed to be up to date by the time that you watch this movie.
That was an extremely ambitious thing they did. Just piling like main characters upon main characters into one movie. I don't quite think they knocked it out of the park with that one. They managed to juggle them competently. Definitely, they were able to do that. But despite the flaws, it makes up for it with that ending. You needed to have all of them there to make that punch as big as it was.
Exactly. Now, let's just jump into what worked, what didn't, what was like the best for you, what was the worst.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the big winner. What for you is the big winner? Obviously, other than Disney, who just knocked this out of the park, who is probably rolling in all the success
other than
and
their
all the dough.
bank accounts.
Exactly. So, but in terms of like characters, who would you say is the big winner?
I think what surprised me the most was how well the Guardians of the Galaxy were able to hold their own against like super team like the Avengers.
Yes.
There was always a worry, like none of them were well, one of them was a main character. They were an ensemble movie.
Yes.
So none of them are main characters, but some of the best moments, like some of the funniest moments and some of the more emotional ones as well, come from the Guardians of the Galaxy. So I think big winner for me, Guardians.
Well, for me, I guess I can't give you just one winner, but I'm thinking it's more of the smaller characters who were finally given their due.
Yeah.
Like, for example, for me, 3 characters who were always powerful, but not really shown just how powerful, especially for people who get to read the comic books. I love how specifically Scarlet Witch, Thor, and Doctor Strange were finally shown at least a peek of what they can actually do.
Yes.
When Doctor Strange came out, that was really great. But, in the comic book, we all know that when things are falling apart, Stephen Strange is one of the first people you really go to and say, hey, save us. You're the only one who can do this. Scarlet Witch was given a peek of, I thought she was going to go full no more mutants on us.
Yeah.
And
you do not want to piss that woman off.
Exactly. And, Reality Stone who?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this woman can utter
Yeah.
a few words and erase
Yeah.
mutanthood. So
Yeah.
I love how they're starting to show us what Wanda can actually do.
Yes.
Because in the past movies, it was just, you know, all that.
Yeah, they were nerfed in the MCU.
Exactly. And,
yeah?
you know, a lot of the hexing was really just
Yeah.
like power beams.
Yes,
And that's all that she
yes.
could do. So I love how she was given that. I love how Thor has probably been given, you know, just what he can actually do.
Yes,
Because
Thor.
in the comic books, we all know that Thor can really, like, you know, give you some major ish.
Yes,
And
yes.
here, it's lovely how we got to see that. And fourth character, not in terms of power, but in terms of importance, I love how Gamora was finally given her moment under the sun. I mean, we all forget, we know that she's part of Guardians, but we all forget that she is the daughter of Thanos.
Yeah, yeah.
And I love how Nebula also was given a little bit of the piece of the pie, because in the comic book she plays a crucial role. Not quite the big role in the comic book, but I love how the two daughters were given, you know, a lot of attention in this movie.
And she makes it to the next one.
And she makes it to the next
We don't
one.
know. Okay, what about the other end of the spectrum? Who was the big loser for you in this one?
Well, I guess the big loser, if you can even call it loser, would be for me a lot of the characters, the two big ones, Captain America and Iron Man and Black Panther, because coming off of those huge successes, they gladly, but for me wisely, took a backseat to this one. You barely saw, you know, any of T'Challa. You barely saw Captain America, like we said earlier. We did get a good chunk of Tony Stark, but it's just that you kind of felt like they are saving them for like a bigger something in the second movie.
Which is probably that. You know, it's no coincidence that we didn't see any of the original Avengers turn into dust in this one. There's one of them who we don't see at all. You know, Hawkeye is probably one of the biggest losers for not being part of this movie.
And Ant-Man.
But it looks like they may be positioned to make a one last hurrah in the next one, right? Like the original Avengers.
Exactly.
For me, my big loser, if it's true, is probably Loki. You know, Thanos straight up says no resurrections this time, and you know, Loki might be a big loser. The fans might be bigger losers if we never get to see Tom Hiddleston as Loki ever again. Such a great character. He doesn't even make it to that emotional finale.
Exactly.
You know, it's called Infinity War for a reason. We know that most of the story comes from like Thanos' quest and Infinity Gauntlet. You know, the Black Order's from Infinity, but Infinity War was such a great choice for it because, like in any war, there are a lot of like unearned deaths in this one. You know, characters who you think should be getting more, they just get wasted in the opening minutes of the scene. You know, a lot of them from the Thor universe. So some losers there, but you know, Valkyrie, we don't really know. We didn't see any confirmation of Valkyrie's body there. So maybe there's still a chance for someone from the Thor universe to survive.
I guess in terms of story though, the one big loser would be Star-Lord. Everyone's saying it's his fault.
Yes.
But, you know, it's still, in terms of character, that's like a loser moment. Yeah. But in terms of, you know, screen time, that was a major spotlight on the character. Yeah. He was definitely not a supporting character here. Yeah. He was one of the big players here. Whether he turned the tide or not is not really part of the question. It's more like he was really a major player in this war.
And whether he was really changing his voice or not. This is my voice. This is my voice. Okay, let's move to a favorite scene. You know, you have to narrow it down. You can't say just the big climax.
Nope. I definitely don't have to think about this. For most of it, I had to think. For this one, all I could see if I close my eyes is Peter Parker begging.
We have the same answer.
You know, Tony Stark to not let him die.
That has to be the one. Yeah.
It is like not just my favorite scene in this movie, but it's one of my all-time favorite scenes ever. Yeah. It was mind-blowing how good Tom Holland was in that scene. Yeah. It was like watching a real person. Yeah. You know, that was what's so gut-wrenching about it. It didn't feel like a movie. Yeah. I felt like there was this neighborhood kid that you really love who was dying in front of your eyes. Yeah. And we all know that there is no chance in hell
Yeah.
that they are killing off specifically T'Challa and
Yeah, yeah.
Peter Parker.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously, there will be sequels, but
Spoiler, man.
but it's impossible that they're not coming
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
But you react as if they are never
Yeah.
coming back
Yeah, yeah.
ever again.
I think
like you will never see them again.
the wonderful thing about that scene was the way they set it up. You have a scene earlier in the movie where he has to insist to Tony Stark that, oh, I knew what I was doing when I hopped onto this ship. That Tony was like, this is a one-way trip.
Yeah.
Like you're just a kid who doesn't know what he's doing. And he was like, no, I know what I'm doing. And then you see in that moment, he was really just a little
He was
kid.
just a kid.
He was not ready for this moment, and we were not ready for that.
I
Like,
think
none of us were.
What makes the Russo brothers genius
Mhm.
was their timing. For me, they are like, virtuoso conductors.
Yeah.
It was the timing. Everyone knew that they were going to die.
Yeah.
We just didn't know which ones,
Yeah.
but we knew that they were going to die. And the way they did it, I mean, like the split second where you're like, are they going? Oh no, you're not. The split pauses, the split
Yes.
second pauses
Yes.
before they start turning into dust
Yeah.
was pure genius. I mean,
Yeah.
for me, the timing was like a maestro.
And then, like, not knowing which one, like you would see
Exactly.
a pair in there.
You would
and-
see
Yeah.
they would feature two heroes.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, which one is it?
Yeah.
And they wait just at the right perfect moment
Yeah. Yeah.
where one will suddenly be revealed as the one who was going to die.
And not
the way
not
they
only
did it-
one, there were somewhere
Some
both,
multiple.
and that really hits you hard.
And I think that was the genius. I mean,
Yeah.
if I ever get the chance,
Mhm.
to see Joe Russo for a third time,
Yeah.
and if he will allow me, I
Yeah.
will probably hug him just
Yes.
to say, "You are amazing.
Yeah.
You are amazing. You and Anthony, you
Yeah.
and your brother are like geniuses
Yeah, it's not just one of the great moments of MCU history, maybe of movie history.
cinema.
It's just great. What wonderful scene right there. Okay, next question. Where does this rank in your MCU ranking? It's for most people, it's probably going to be 1 or 2.
Yeah, I
Where
know-
is it for you?
I know a lot of people, pre-Infinity War, it was a toss-up between Winter Soldier and Civil War, and there's
And
a
Avengers, maybe some
and
guys
some
will want,
will
or
say
the first
Avengers.
Avengers movie. Yeah.
a lot of people will still choose Winter Soldier.
Mhm.
It's no secret. For me, Civil War was the best MCU
Okay.
movie.
Yeah.
So for me, it's between Civil War and this one. In terms of pure gut,
Mhm.
don't ask me which one is better because I really can't. But which one is my favorite? It's definitely this one. I don't think I have
Oh.
ever felt
Yeah.
so punched and beaten up emotionally
Yeah. Yeah.
by a superhero movie than I was with this one. I
Yeah.
mean, it hit all the right buttons for me.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you know how like there is this level of satisfaction at the end of a movie.
Mhm.
And usually my biggest heartbreak in movies would be it's set up perfectly. And then when it comes time for the resolution, for the conclusion,
Uh-huh.
you're like, it kind of fell flat.
Yeah. Yeah.
With this one, the hype was fever pitch. How
Yes.
I actually pitied this movie and the
Mhm,
directors and the writers. How can you even live up to
Right,
this
right.
kind of hype?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when they delivered that final scene, and I was just stunned.
yeah.
I
yeah.
felt like a zombie, a lifeless
Right,
zombie
right.
at the end of it. I was like, how were you able to do that?
Yeah,
How?
amazing reactions. Like, we watched the movie together, and like there was complete silence
Yeah.
after the
And
movie.
people were filing out like
Yeah.
somebody like
Yeah,
died in
yeah.
the family,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
were kind of like ambling out lifelessly
Yeah.
because you were just too stunned by
Yeah,
what
yeah.
you saw up on screen. So I was really like, that is amazing.
Yeah, I think for me, it's gonna be a toss up between Black Panther and this one. I think overall Black Panther may be like a more enjoyable movie for me.
Yeah.
But man, the way this movie hit me, and it's kind of cheating because it does have like 10 years of history behind it, something that Black Panther didn't have.
Yes.
It's kind of a toss up. Probably if I had to choose right now, I'd say I'd say this one. Maybe it's
Yeah.
recency bias. You know,
Yeah.
but Black Panther was recent.
It's true.
Maybe it's recency bias, but I'm putting this number one.
Ask us in another
Yeah,
10
yeah.
years.
Yeah, we probably do that ranking.
Yeah.
We'll probably play a ranking game sometime soon about the MCU. Okay, last question, and then we gotta get out of here. Is everyone really dead?
Okay, so obviously not. I mean,
Okay.
even in the comic book, there was a way that everyone was brought back.
Uh-huh.
It's just a matter of how.
Mhm.
And, we won't even get into the theories because there
Yeah,
are
yeah.
so many. Of course, the most, just to throw out some of them.
They showed us one in this movie.
Yeah, they kind of like showed it already a little bit.
Yeah.
If it's going to be anywhere, similar to the comic book. In the
Yeah,
comic book,
yeah.
it was Nebula who takes out the gauntlet from Thanos' hand
Yeah.
while he was all
Yeah.
being godlike.
Yeah.
And then simply took it out and said, "Okay, I'm
Yeah.
wearing it now." And-
Not to say that that's exactly what's gonna happen in the
Exactly,
next
but-
one. They've always taken liberties with the source
obviously,
material.
So
yeah.
all we're saying is one
And that's not a
option
spoiler.
is obviously somebody will just
Yeah.
one option is somebody will take the gauntlet. We
Yes.
don't know who.
Probably.
Maybe it's Captain Marvel. Maybe it's Tony Stark.
Or who knows? Maybe that doesn't happen. Maybe they let Thanos win. We don't know.
And then there are other, like really wild. Who knows how wild?
yeah.
Maybe some of them are there. Some are saying, Wanda is actually the most powerful mutant out there, and she could be it. Some people are saying, we are, they're going to Twilight us. Like this is actually one. You know how like in Breaking Dawn.
yeah.
We thought that was what was happening when actually we are watching one of Stephen Strange's
Yeah,
visions,
yeah. Okay.
and then there are others.
I hope not.
Some are saying, that it has something to do with Tony Stark
Oh,
being
yeah.
part of the Soul
Right.
Stone.
I mean, there's a lot of
there
theories.
are so many,
There are a
so
lot of
many
theories,
theories as to how they will bring them all back.
Yeah.
And of course, we need to bring up Captain Marvel.
Right,
We don't know
right.
what
Captain Marvel, yeah.
what sort of role she will be playing
Yeah.
in the second episode, because obviously the movie ending with her logo means
Yes.
she
It's
will
gonna be big.
make a huge impact.
Yeah, and in the comics, they've made her a pretty prominent player within the Avengers universe. In the comics, they're probably gonna position her, especially with we all know a lot of the original Avengers, their contracts are nearing an end.
Yes.
We might not see some of them after the Avengers 4. So this is probably the next one is probably the one that is going to have some real stakes.
Yes.
Because this is the one where they can actually do like permanent kills.
That's what I was saying. I do believe that they will bring everyone back. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, well, they
But
have to.
I really think that this entire arc will not end without some major deaths.
Yeah.
At least one.
Yes.
One that will, leave your mouth open by the end of the movie. And I think they will do it after the resolution.
Right.
Because however they will bring them back, it's very easy to say, then why can't they just bring everyone back?
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that they'll bring everyone back, and then something will happen, and then somebody dies, or some heroes die.
Yeah. Or not.
Or not.
They've
Who
got
knows?
Joe Russo on record the saying as, next Avengers movie is the end of the MCU as we know it.
Exactly.
And then it's going to be it's not even like going to be the next chapter. It's going to be like a new book.
A complete
So,
start.
we don't know what's going to happen. But definitely, all I have to say, with this movie, what this movie teaches you is it doesn't matter if you know how it ends. It's the journey. It's getting there that they're really great at. Everyone, Kevin Feige, the Russo brothers, Marcus and McFeely, who wrote this, everyone involved, they know how to tell a great story. Even if you know how it ends, it's amazing experience. Even on my second rewatch, it hit me just as hard as the first one.
Exactly.
So okay, so time to get out of here.
Okay. So, tell us what you think. I'm pretty sure everyone has their own thing going on.
Yes.
We are just flabbergasted by this movie. All right, so like we said, hit us up, comment section, tell us what you think. And of course, we would appreciate it if you could click subscribe, The Rule of Nerds. And of course, our social media accounts, it's The Rule of Nerds on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Now, for our personal accounts, I am at Chico Garcia on Instagram and Twitter.
You can follow me, M_Volante on Twitter. It's JM_Volante on Instagram.
Nerds out!
Here we go.